And welcome into this Zoom video. Pressbox and PressboxOnline.com present Stan the Fan Zoom video. And Alex Parker is playing the part of Ross Grimsley tonight. And I've put together with baseball in the foreseeable future, I've put together all my MASN buddies that I've worked with. And we hope we're back in front of a camera sometime real soon, especially not that Eddie and I and Alex and Dave don't want to be in front of a camera, but with what Mel Antonen has gone through, Mel, and I read the piece. I even talked about it with you, but until I read the MASN Sports piece, had no idea how crazy your medical odyssey has been for 4.5 months.
It's amazing. I said in that piece, it must have been how pitchers felt facing the 27 Yankees. First it's Ruth, then it's Gehrig. For me, it was first HLH, and then it was COVID, and then it's back to HLH. I can't get him out, but I got him on the run now, and I'm getting closer and closer to recovery. So I appreciate the thoughts.
And Alex Parker, how have you been, my friend?
I've been good, knock on wood. I have not been through anything like what Mel Antonen has dealt with.
Yeah.
Our family is healthy. We're safe. We're blessed. We miss sports. We miss baseball. We miss everything like everybody else. But Mel helps us all keep this in perspective. We know 99.999% of the world has it a lot worse than we do. We're great. Thank you for asking.
All right. DJ, how have you been doing?
It's all good. Yeah, it's obviously weird and just a crazy situation that none of us have ever had to go through in our however many years we've been here, and it's different for all of us, of course. But this is, if nothing else, this is just really kind of shows that you just gotta, life's journeys, and you got to make adjustments. Of course, what Mel went through, we're kind of tagging along the journey a little bit with Mel, wishing him the best and hoping everything goes well. And it looks like from what he's talking about now, this is kind of gone, or at least going way more in the right direction, even though his road has kind of zigged and zagged so many different turns. I'm sure he's a little apprehensive about that. But
the last time I said it, I ended up in the hospital for 10 days.
Exactly. He's like, oh, yeah, I got this beat. We're like, Mel's in the hospital. I'm like, what? So,
I've got this.
Like anything else, we really shouldn't listen to anything Mel says anyway, but we're just going to take it with a grain of salt.
Now, Ed Matz over there, Ed, you had a crazy thing happen right at the beginning of everybody sheltering in place. Your son Jackson was bar mitzvahed, and it became a cause celeb. It became maybe one of the first ever Zoom bar mitzvahs. Tell our viewers about that.
Yeah, that was the first. He was supposed to have his bar mitzvah March 21st. We thought it was going to be 150 or whatever guests, and then it went down to 50 because that's what the CDC and the government said. And then 2 days before, they went down to 10. So we were like, what do we do? So yeah, we were the first that we know of. I think I've heard about 1 or 2 in New York that actually happened before ours, but around here, we were the first Zoom mitzvah, as we came to call it. I ended up writing a piece for Baltimore Magazine about it, and some people that I don't even know read that and ended up being inspired by it and doing their own Zoom mitzvahs. Of course, now it's not that uncommon. So yeah, it's been a crazy time. I remember being on MASN first week of March, and we thought we were going to be out for maybe like 2 weeks. And I remember going on this whole thing about we're going to play lots of Scrabble and ride bikes and have family dinners. And here we are 4 months later, and it's still that.
It's pretty clear that none of these folks that run baseball, and I don't want to talk about the past couple months because it just would make me sick, but they couldn't even agree to what they had agreed upon back on March 26th when that first agreement came in. That was the most astounding thing about them not coming to a real deal where this season had to be mandated by the commissioner. How did they get there, Mel? I know you were fighting the COVID at that point, but how could you write a clause that poorly that both sides couldn't even agree that this is what we agreed upon?
Well, I think what happened is, I think they agreed on something in the March agreement that, players would be paid a prorated salary. But at the time, owners thought that there would be parking, concessions, and ticket sales.
Sure.
Then when they found out the CDC said you couldn't do that, then they came back to the union and said, we need some more concessions. And that's where it started. The union felt like they were taking 2 pay cuts and putting all the risk on themselves with the COVID-19. So I think that's how it started. But it's not good. Baseball's got a lot of problems. The games are too long. The average age of the fan is reaching in the late 50s. Attendance is declining. The last thing they needed was a long labor dispute.
Hey, Dave Johnson, there's going to be a ton of changes, obviously, that we'll all sort of get used to as we do this. One of the biggest has got to be the fact that fans are not going to be there, at least as of now. We expect no fans for this 60-game sprint. Maybe it changes as we get closer to the end, but let's just assume for the sake of this, there are no fans. As a guy that's been out there and done this, how much do players feed off of, rely on, whatever, need the fans to be the best player they can be? Or is it tunnel vision and you know what, whether they're out there or not, I can sort of perform the same. Of the 5 of us, you're the only one that has done this for a living. What's that going to be like?
Well, it'll be different. There's no question about that. And everybody always asks me one question in particular, and it's always, well, what was the best park, that you enjoyed playing in? And to me, in the minor leagues, it was Buffalo because we had 19,500 every night. It was the first year of baseball in Buffalo with the new ballpark. They were trying to get Major League Baseball, so they sold the ballpark out, 19,500 every night. So we played, I guess it was 72 games or whatever. It was like 140, 144 game schedule, whatever. And every game was sold out. The atmosphere was unbelievable. In the big leagues, it was Sky Dome because Sky Dome had just opened like a month or two before I got called up. And Toronto had a good club, and it was a new ballpark. Everybody in Toronto wanted to be there. They had 50,000 people every night. That was the place to play because the atmosphere was incredible. So it was just one of those deals where you feed off of the fans. But on the other hand, ask a kid who's at a showcase. Ask me what it was like my first year or two in the minor leagues or my first year when I signed and I went to Greenwood, South Carolina, average attendance 87. Was I excited about being out there? Was I trying my best? Was I into it like 100%? Absolutely, because my career was on the line. And I think as a big league baseball player, even though it will be different not having fans there, first of all, you're on TV, which is nice. So you're still showing your wares in that regard to people. But just the competition, the pride, you don't want to stink it up. Your stats are on the line, your career's on the line. Guys who have guaranteed contracts, their reputation, their pride's on the line. Will it be different? Yeah, but I don't think you're going to see the type of play go downward, or you're not going to see people not hustling because of that. Because the game, when you're kind of into it, when you're pitching or hitting, at that moment, all the fans are blocked out. Because if you can't block that out, then you can't concentrate on what you need to do. So it will be different. But I think the game itself, when you're watching on TV, yeah, you won't have the crowd noise unless they pipe it in somehow or whatever. But in the end, it's still going to be Major League Baseball.
Dave, I wanted to follow up with you because, like Alex said, you're the only guy that's done this. What are the unique problems physically and mentally and mostly I'm thinking of pitchers coming back after working to within 2 weeks of opening day or 2.5 weeks of opening day, have to now put that behind them and start all over again at working? Or are these guys, have they all been working out?
Well, I have to believe they've been working out. It's been a couple weeks now where it looks like there was going to be if there was going to be a season, it was going to be around now. Maybe it would have started a little sooner, but in the end, everybody kind of had an idea because of the agreement that they had when they stopped in the first place that there may be a 60-game schedule or something. So this would be the time that they would need to have been geared up to be ready to go. Anybody who's had to gear up and get ready for spring training, if they took a long layoff, or whether they had some type of injury that they come back from, even if it was a minor one. Nowadays, you have a minor injury, even in the minor leagues, they just shut you down right away. Then they start back, from a crawl to get back going again. So I think that everybody realistically should not have a big problem with it. But is it different? Yeah, and we're creatures of habit. Ball players are athletes are, but pitchers maybe even more in particular are, especially with the throwing routine and things like that. So could guys be a little different? Could they maybe not be as sharp as they would normally be or whatever? Yeah, I guess that could be the case for some. But in the end, it's like anything else, that from the time you get to you play baseball at 5, 6, 7 years old and you get to the big leagues, there's a lot of adjustments you've had to make throughout the course of your career, and this will just be another one.
The big story today in baseball, which happens to be of local interest, is that Ryan Zimmerman and Joe Ross are opting out of the 2020 season given the COVID situation and the scare. Zimmerman, quote, "I have a 3-week-old baby. My mother has multiple sclerosis and is super high risk. If I end up playing, I can pretty much throw the idea of seeing her until weeks after the season is over. There's a lot of factors that I and others have to consider. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's everybody's individual choice." Eddie Matz, I'm going to go with you and Mel on this. You both know the Matz very well, and you both know Zim very well. What's your reaction, Eddie, to this?
Not surprised one bit. He's always been as consummate of a family man as there is on that team and in baseball, period. What's that, kid number 4, I think, for him? I feel like he's constantly, whenever I had a conversation about anything with him and I wanted to talk about something off the field, it was family, because we both have lots of kids. I don't have as many as he does. And the mother thing is huge, right? So many people don't understand that the danger of this virus is people, and my wife who works in the ER talks about this all the time. Like, people don't want to hang out with us right now, even less than they want to hang out with other people, because my wife is on the front line. So it's the same thing. You can have this thing. You can test positive. I mean, Mel's been there. You can test positive. People know you have it, but you can be a silent carrier. And God forbid, Ryan Zimmerman's in the locker room. He contracts the thing, doesn't know he's got it, gives it to his grandparents, and then that's a bad scene. It's I don't blame him one bit, especially a guy like him. He's made his money. He's now won a championship. He's done pretty much everything that you could do, even under normal circumstances. I don't think we knew whether Ryan Zimmerman was certainly coming back. So if you're him, it's a no-brainer. Joe Ross, I think, a little bit more surprising because he's younger, but you never know what's going on at home, right? If you live with a parent or a grandparent, or if there's little ones involved, there's all these high sensitivity situations that I think all of us, media, sports fans, everyone would love to see sports come back. We'd love to see baseball come back. But the more you think about it, especially when you see these positive tests in the news, it just seems like it's really maybe lacking perspective. Like, maybe we should just table everything. We see the NBA and the NHL and soccer getting going. We think, oh, well, why doesn't baseball get going? There's a really good reason why all of these sports probably shouldn't even do it. But as sports fans, we want to see it. So I don't blame Joe Ross and Ryan Zimmerman one bit.
I understand what's going on with Ryan Zimmerman. Yeah, with his family, there's some personal issues. There's some safety issues with his mother and his children. There's no question about that, as Eddie pointed out. But also, how much would he be gotten to play? He was going to share first base with the left-hand hitter, Eric Timms. And then he was going to be a pinch hitter late in the game. And Howie Kendrick would be doing a lot of that, and Asdrubal Cabrera would be doing a lot of that. So not only did he have issues at home, health issues that could possibly happen at home, but he also had issues with playing time as well. It was just, he wasn't going to play as much. He wasn't going to be the Ryan Zimmerman that every Nationals fan expected. And the first thing I thought about when I heard the news today that Ryan Zimmerman was going to opt out, I thought about Mark McGwire back in his rookie season when he had 49 home runs for the final weekend of the season, and he skipped those 3 or 4 games at the end of the season so he could be with the birth of his son. Sometimes family takes precedent over baseball. And so you throw in the safety issues, you throw in the playing time issues, and then I think another issue is, I think there's a lot of players that would like to be like Ryan Zimmerman. I think, I think there's a lot of players across Major League Baseball that say the risk might not be worth it, and we might be seeing some more players drop out.
Let me pose the question, since we put it out there. with what would it take at this point for the season to become in jeopardy? Let me start with Dave J over there. Dave, I mean, what do you think would have to happen? Would one team have to have, and I've heard now some people throw out the example of a team getting 10 or 15 players come down as positive tests?
This is just one of those, again, unprecedented situations that we're going through. Everybody has different opinions on this. I clearly believe that I haven't heard why Joe Ross, I don't know whether Joe Ross has made the statement yet of why he's decided to opt out. But the Zimmerman situation has been noted here. And I totally get that. I think Mel's point too to that about, he was going to be a part-time player. I mean, so why risk it? I mean, just sit out, and if he wants to come back next year and if this thing clears up or there's a vaccine or whatever, fine. But the other thing is that, if they're going to have a season, it's going to be a weird season as it is. All the different rules, changes, and everything. If they eventually have a season and they have a playoff system and a postseason and a world champion, it's probably going to be an asterisk type season anyway. And I think that still, if they can, fill out the rosters, play the season, it is what it is. Everybody's going to be in a unique situation. Nobody's going to be at full strength, most likely. And you just kind of go with it. If I can't imagine they would get to a point where like, okay, there's 60 guys on this, roster, so to speak, that they can pick from. And, 35 of them, have tested positive. So basically we're just going to shut our season down. And all of a sudden, every time somebody was supposed to play that team, they would just get a forfeit or something. I don't know, but since it's such a crazy situation, anything could happen.
Let me throw that question to Eddie and to Mel as to have you given it any thought of what it would take for this whole thing to break down? I mean, we saw the NBA, I think 16 players out of 350 or something tested positive. But Eddie, any thoughts on that? And Mel?
I don't know what the threshold is. I don't know what the threshold is for what Rob Manfred and his lieutenants are thinking. But there is a threshold in his mind and what's going to happen. Teams can actually opt out, and there would be, if Team A says we can't play anymore, then there would just be a forfeit type situation. But the talk all around baseball is that very question that you asked, Stan. What is the standard? What is the red line in the sand? I don't know what it is, but I'm sure Rob Manfred has got some idea. And the fact that COVID cases are rising in 30 states across the country, you can see that there's a danger involved. In 1994, Bud Selig canceled the World Series in August. This labor negotiation stoppage is different because there's a World Series that's planned, but it could go by the wayside.
Yeah, and I also wonder if above Rob Manfred, government-wise, if you think about, I mean, we haven't exactly seen the most, how do you say this? Our national government, the executive branch, has not necessarily been as active as some people would like in setting rules and guidelines. But I can envision a scenario where not just with baseball and maybe not just with sports in general, but at some point, whether it's Fauci or maybe Trump, who knows, but somewhere in the national government, they're just like, you know what, let's shut that down. If that happens, then, I think baseball might have its hands tied. I don't know if, pursuant to the language of their agreement, I don't know if that's even possible, but I can envision a scenario in which that could happen. Everyone talks about the M-shaped curve that the Spanish flu had, right? And we're not even at the bottom of the M-shaped curve yet that we're expecting before the rise. And already, as Mel pointed out, the majority of the states are spiking. It's a crap show, really. So if we're on the low side of the M, I'm kind of scared to see what the high side of the M is. And depending on how that goes, I could picture government saying, no, just end it, shut it down.
One of the most fascinating aspects of this is I think about a month ago, the plan was to have sort of an extended Arizona Fall League and maybe do the same thing in Florida so young players could actually play and compete and develop. That's got to be, I haven't heard a word mentioned about that anymore other than your taxi squad that's going to play somewhere, in their squad games. But those two states, Arizona and Florida, I wouldn't want my players populating there, playing games right
Well,
now.
you think about how hard it is to put a major league schedule together. The schedule makers in Major League Baseball might have it this week, might be a couple of weeks from now. We don't know. But you think about putting a major league season together and then a bunch of minor leagues, a minor league season together. That's even more difficult because you don't know who the players are. There's so many unknowns. So as Mike Elias said today in his meeting with reporters, basically prospects are losing a year of development because it's one thing to throw in an inter squad game. It's another thing to throw 7 innings on a Tuesday night and come back the following day, following five nights later to pitch. So definitely this hurts development all the way around. And I just don't think by the time it's so late in the season, I don't think you can organize a minor league season at this point.
Okay, I'm going to ask sort of a baseball-y question. I want anybody on the panel to jump in. When I was thinking about this, just very generally, and you guys know this a lot better than I do, this sport, 162 game season, is it safe to say that when a season starts, 20 of the 30 teams, this is my guesstimate, have a realistic shot at the postseason? Anybody agree with my guesstimate? Regular, normal, run-of-the-mill, 162, 10 teams have no shot at the postseason. Anybody agree with me on this?
I think if you look at it statistically, you could say that. It's just you always, every few years you'll have a team that did what the '89 team. They were, they 107 losses the year before, and all of a sudden they're in first place, going into September the next year. So, to say that 10 of teams have no shot, I don't think you can say any team has no shot, but you can say percentage-wise, they have such a minute percentage of chance of actually competing and winning. You can say that, but realistically, we all know that for the most part, there's those 15 to 18, maybe 20 teams that are going to be fighting for the chance to get into the postseason and go deep and win a World Series. When the talent level on 8 to 10 of those teams at the big league level every year going in isn't anywhere near the caliber of the other teams, but extenuating circumstances, getting off to a great start, believing in yourself, and just kind of running with that until almost you feel, or you get to that point where you're like, you know what, we had like 15 guys overachieve. I mean, they'll never do what they did this year again, but there was that emotional roller coaster that they were on that for a very, finite period of time, they thought they were as good as anybody else. And sometimes you can will yourself to do that for a period of time, but it won't last forever.
Well, that's where I'm going with this. We got 60 games. This is a sprint. This is Dave Johnson trying to beat a better golfer that you probably can't beat if you're going to play 3 rounds of golf, but you might beat him in 18 holes. There's a guy out there, Dave Johnson, that you, over 54, he's probably going to get you by 2 or 3, no matter how you play. But you can get him in 18. So my point to this is 30 teams, 60 games now. That's it. Does that 20 number become 25 or 28? Does a team like, dare I say, the Baltimore Orioles, who are near and dear to all of our hearts, because of 60 games, do they have a chance? Are there teams out there that would not have a chance, really, if it was 162? How many more will have a chance now, Mel Antonen, because this is a sprint, and you just got to get hot for 2 months?
Yep, we're at a point. Given the 60-game schedule, anybody that goes on a 10-game hitting streak is going to be a candidate to win the American League or National League MVP. But I would say that it's easier to find a Cinderella team in a 60-game schedule than it is in a 162-game schedule. I mean, last year through 60 games, the Dodgers were 4 games under 500.
Nice.
And look what happened to them. So here's a case in point. Last year, the Miami Marlins, through 60 games, had one of the best ERAs for the starting rotation in all the National League. They each made 12 starts. They had a 3.3 ERA, and they were playing very, very well. What happens if the Marlins, who lost 103 games last year, repeat that performance? What if they get that type of pitching early in the season and run off 25, go 25 and 15 or whatever the case may be? They would be in the race. So my point is, I think everybody's got a chance. I think the Orioles have less of a chance than most teams, given that they only had 1 month last year where they had double-digit wins. Otherwise, it was anywhere from 6 to 9 per month. But it's easier to find a Cinderella team with a 60-game schedule than it is for 162.
Let me just interject, though, that the thing that the Orioles have going against them is they got to play 10 games against the Yankees, 10 games against Tampa. Boston and Toronto aren't great, but they then have to play a bulk of their schedule against 4 really pretty good teams in Atlanta, Washington, the Mets, and the Phillies. They're going to face a lot of good pitching, the Orioles.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and I think you can't underrate Toronto because they've got a good offense, they got a good young nucleus of players, and they've added to their pitching staff. They added Chase Anderson, they added Hyun-Jin Ryu, they added Tanner Roark. They're starting pitching with some of the worst in the American League last year. But if they pitch up to standards, what they think those new guys can do, the Blue Jays aren't going to be easy to beat either.
Let me throw out a question, and I know not everybody answered that, but we've gone about a half hour already, so I'll ask a question, and Alex, you can wrap it up. But let me ask, are there any of the rules that really hit you? The fact that the National League is going to play with a designated hitter. I wonder if Ryan Zimmerman wouldn't have gotten a little bit more playing time, Mel, because of the DH being in effect in the National League. And B, they are actually implementing that rule, the 3-batter rule for pitchers. That's staying in. That was voted in, I think, at the winter baseball meetings. And then they are implementing this extra inning twist where right away in the 10th inning of a game, you're going to have a base runner starting on second base. Eddie, what do you think of these rules?
Well, I think the rule about the DH is something that the union wants, and I think it's here to stay. I think the rule at second base is a good experiment for a 60-game season. I think for health reasons, it's a good idea to get everybody out of the ballpark as quickly as possible, but I don't think that's going to stick. And to answer your question about Ryan Zimmerman, the Nats have a lot of options at DH, but I think Howie Kendrick, given what he did last year, hit 340 with the 370 on-base percentage and in that Game 7 home run against Houston. I think Howie Kendrick was going to get most of the at-bats as DH for the Nationals.
Eddie?
Yeah, so I'm a mixed bag. Some of these rules I like, some I don't. I kind of like seeing pitchers hit or try to hit. It's just fun. The extra innings thing seems weird to me, but look, this is the perfect way to try it, right? I mean, we didn't want COVID to happen. We would like it to go away. We don't want a 60-game season. But if you've got these new rules, this is the perfect little tester, right? It's like a 16-year-old getting his learner's permit. You just try it out, you see what happens, and give people a taste of it. And I think we'll get a good sense of whether these rules are great or whether they stink. And then that'll allow them to go forward. Hopefully, if baseball resumes naturally, the natural course of things next year, then we see.
Dave, along those same lines, what do you expect pace of play to be with no fans in the stands? Will the games move faster?
I don't know. I'm wondering if they're going to implement an extra commercial in there somehow, trying to generate more revenue. So obviously, if they throw an extra 10 or 15-second or 30-second commercial, or MLB allows them to do that. Then just because they're trying to generate revenue that they don't have the ability to generate without having fans in the stands and parking and concessions and things like that. Who knows? That 3-batter rule. I hate that rule. I think it takes strategy away. Some would say, well, it adds strategy. Well, it does. I think that, I just don't like the rule. As far as DH, to me, pitchers should not have been hitting for ever. I mean, you got a DH, you got in one league. And to be honest with you, both leagues should play the same way. And it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they had they took the DH away. And it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they had a DH in both leagues. You're going to play baseball. It's Major League Baseball. You should be all playing by the same rules. It's just stupid to me. And this thing with a guy at second base is asinine. I mean, I don't understand how Major League Baseball had all these years and they still couldn't say, you know what, extra innings. We're going to play at 1 extra inning or 2.
And then it'll be a tie.
The game ends in a tie. What's wrong with a tie? Oh, you play 9 innings. The fact is that it's the detriment to pitching staffs, and even more so, not at the big league level, but at the minor league level. They absolutely decimate pitching staffs sometimes. When you have a AAA game or a AA game that goes into the 14th or 15th inning, you kill that team for the next week because the starters aren't going to pitch anymore, but those guys in the bullpen are asked to pitch more. And, oh, by the way, if it happens in a AAA game and they're holding somebody out because they might go to the big leagues or somebody gets called to the big leagues, they don't automatically bring somebody up from Double-A to replace that guy. So to me, they should not even play extra innings at all. The game ended in a tie. No, move on. Go from there.
That's Dave Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. Alex, wrap it up with a question, and then we'll say goodnight.
Okay, another baseball E1. According to reports, it's Yankees at Nats 24 days from now. It's going to be Garrett Cole against somebody. It's going to be either Max Scherzer or it's going to be Steven Strasburg. And if we were on the real show, on the real set, somewhere along the way in the rundown, I would say, who should be the Nats opening day starter? We know it's always Scherzer because he's Scherzer. The other fellow, Strasburg's pretty darn good too, and might be the best pitcher in baseball right now, or the best pitcher on the team. Just see what he did last year in the World Series. Eddie Matz, who's your opening day starter if you've got to win the ball game? I don't care about ceremonial stuff. You got to win the ball game. You only get 60 of them. Who you starting, Scherzer or Strauss?
Scherzer. Not taking anything away from Strasburg and what he did last year. He was their horse last year. He was the healthy guy. He was a postseason deity, pretty much. But that was all because Scherzer wasn't quite Scherzer. He had some injury problems. When they're both healthy, Max Scherzer is still the best pitcher on that team and arguably the best pitcher in baseball. So unless you have evidence that Scherzer's not whole, that he has some lingering issues from last year, I give that ball to Scherzer, and I don't even blink thinking about it.
Mel Antonen.
I'd go with Strasburg because of what he did in the World Series. And I think you got to think a little bit about just marketing the game a little bit. I mean, I understand what Eddie's saying about Scherzer, but I think this is Strasburg's time to lead the rotation. And so a Strasburg Cole, even if it's for 4 innings apiece, which is probably all it will be, maybe 5 if we're lucky, I would go with Strasburg, given he was the World Series MVP and the fact that he's kind of taken over that mantle, being number 1 in the rotation.
DJ.
Yeah, I know. I once heard somebody that I used to work with on a regular basis say something about the 2A+ student thing. I digress. But I'll go with Strasburg for the reasons Mel mentioned. I'm not necessarily sure that Strasburg is overall the better pitcher. He may be, but what he did last year, I think he earned the right to take the ball opening day this year, even if he might not be better than Max Scherzer when Max Scherzer's 100% and Strasburg's 100%, based on what happened last year at the end of the year and how it all transpired. To me, Strasburg deserves to get the ball.
I want to thank Alex Parker for sitting in for Ross Grimsley, and I want to thank all my friends over at MASN, Eddie Matz, who's also my cousin, Dave Johnson, who's like a brother, and the one and only Mel Antonen, back on the mend. Guys, thank you very much for doing this. We appreciate you joining us on this Press Box and PressBoxOnline.com Zoom. One of the things I want to say, I missed the games, but I've really missed working with you even more than the games, guys.
Well, it's getting a little sappy.
Hope to see you soon. Hope to see you soon, okay?
Oh, Stan, we miss you.
All right. Take care. Eddie, you got another song coming up?
I do, very soon.
Oh.
Wait.
Well, you got to debut it on my Zoom.
It's
All
coming.
right.
It's probably dropping this week. It's about COVID, oddly enough.
It's
All
either
right.
Stan's Zoom or the Tonight
Where-
Show. It's
where
really
can
up to you,
people-
Eddie, what you want to do in terms of trying to get the most bang for your buck.
Where can people find that Zoom, Eddie? The song you did.
YouTube, my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Eddie Matz. It's called Salaries. By the way, Stan, you look great.
Thank you.
Really good.
I've lost
Hey,
about
Dave Johnson.
I've lost about 24 pounds from walking and eating a little better.
The rest of you guys look great too, and Mel. But Stan,
Mel, you look great. Eddie
I
looks great.
apologize.
DJ looks so relaxed.
Real sappy here.
This
I
guy's
had it backwards, Dave, on the golf.
this guy's working hard over here, Alex Parker. All right,
I had
guys.
it backwards.
I hope to see you in the studio real soon. Okay.
All right,
Dave,
see you
nobody
guys.
beats you in golf. Ever.
See ya.
See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.
All right, guys. Thank you.